Good morning, 6:30, Friday, March 25th. Thanks everybody for joining in this morning. This week's code of conduct is to drive safely, defensively, and courteously. Ben, would you like to add anything on our code item of the week?
Yeah, it's okay to get here a minute later and let them pass you if they're trying to pass you on Williston Road, especially when you got the logo. Just let off and let them go.
Another set.
Are you still should be sharing something? I don't see anything.
I think I tested my share and I might have taken it away.
Okay, thank you guys. Sorry
about that. Can you see it now? You see it now, right?
Yep.
Okay. 7 days without a recordable, so we're up to 123 as we're approaching the April and kind of the kickoff of the construction season. So we got through a lot of the slip, trips, and falls, the icy conditions. So excellent job. Now we're going to be in mud season, so that slip trips are still going to be there. The muck and mud attached to the boot. So be really careful, especially when we're talking about working on ladders like we are here today. So just quick thing on ladder safety, just our annual ladder safety. You know, we for the most part, we work extremely safe on ladders, but it's just a good refresher and reminder to inspect our ladders. We did have one ladder in use this week that we had to take out of service with a broken run. So let's just kind of highlight this week, especially today and first part of next week, to go through all your ladders on the job site or that you're assigned to, and making sure that the ladders are up to stuff. So for the most part, we're just extension and step ladders, as you can see here. Best practices, again, is to always extend the ladder 3 feet above your surface or your landing that you're working on. A lot of it for us is our top of our trench. So make sure that ladder extends 3 feet so we can safely get on and off our ladder using 3 points of contact. Try to always tie off our ladder if we can, at least at the top or definitely at the bottom. Secure the ladder at the bottom if we're worried about kick out, especially in muddy conditions. A 4-to-1 ratio is preferred. Again, that's for every 4 foot vertical. We're 1 foot away. As you can see in this photo here, it's a nice 4-to-1 ratio. That's a nice, safe, secure. Always try to make sure you have 3 points of contact, like I said before, and never carry tools or materials on a ladder because that's where kind of those risky behaviors happen and falls could happen. And again, if the ladder has broken rungs, let's take it out of service. And then for step ladders, very similar. Again, follow the manufacturer's recommendations, making sure everything has labels on it. Face the ladder while climbing up and down. Keep slippery materials away from ladders, again, especially, try to clean off our ladders in those muddy conditions. Use a barricade to keep away from traffic. The idea is you don't want too many people walking up, like definitely not underneath it or around it, that could potentially nudge it or tip you off your ladder. Only put ladders on stable and level surfaces. Again, make sure you have that good firm base. Maintain those 3 points of contact. Again, that's 2 feet or 2 hands, 1 foot, or 2 feet, 1 hand. And then always making sure that we're staying away from any overhead or underground power lines. We use fiberglass for a reason because they're non-conductive. So again, but we just want to make sure in those risk assessments that we're doing daily that we're taking care of that overhead and underlying power lines. So good little safe tips, best practices for ladder safety. So again, let's really emphasize this week on inspections and taking those ones out of service that shouldn't be in service. That's all I have, Ken. If anything to add, feel free.
Well, for my personal use, I have one of those multi-shape adjustable ladders. And it really works great, and it adapts to a lot of conditions. The one I have actually has an adjustment on one side of the ladder. It forms a step ladder that can adjust the length of the feet to different heights, so you can make it a little more stable on ground that's not flat. A lot more stable.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of good technology out there, and we're going to embrace that. If anyone has a special request on a ladder, we'll definitely listen to it. So.
Okay, I'll take over here.
Hey, Matt, real quick while Ken's getting that together. So tying the top off, that's not a suggestion, though. That's a requirement, correct?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Ladder securement, yes, you always want, if, especially on a building, you know, it's hard for us on inside excavations to do that, but definitely for going into scaffolding, you know, residential or any type of, you know, building per se, yes, tying off a ladder up top is preferred, is required.
Thanks.
The first time up might need to be without it in order to make that securement.
That's true.
Okay. Oops.
Hey guys, just one quick thing. All the regulations that Matt said are all good, but if you look at your situation and you think, boy, this is kind of dumb, don't do it. Fix it.
Right.
Follow your gut.
Yep. Okay, so announcements, as we were talking about earlier, there's been a problem, been an ongoing problem for a long time with suspicious emails and attachments, and you really can't trust almost from any source. It doesn't matter if it's someone you know and trust. If it doesn't look right, and sometimes if it looks right, it still isn't right. So we got to be extra careful in like what happened to Matt. The first thing to do once you realize it isn't legitimate is to let Calkins or let Ben Dow know, or somebody that can help kind of back through that to keep out of getting into a, you know, a spam thing that haunts you, or a virus, or who knows what. I remember what happened, about 6 or 8 months ago at the UVM Medical Center. Their whole system was under a ransom attack, and that cost them dearly, and was quite a struggle for all the hospital people for a long time. So we want to avoid that. It happens, it's out there, and if anything doesn't look right, call first. And if it's not from somebody you regularly get the same email from, be suspicious. And even if it is, like Matt said, Jared sends him something all the time for an invoice, and he thought it was totally fine. It was the same practice he had seen. And I've seen it too. Things come across that it's like, oh, I know that guy, and oh yeah, he's sending me something, a bid request or something, and I click it, and it's like, oh wait, I'm not going to click that. That's something isn't right here. So keep that in mind.
Ken, a lot of times what they ask for is your username and password.
Right. If they ask for that, that's kind of like, okay, something's clearly not right.
Yep.
But even beyond that, clicking, it's easy for people to get you to click an attachment because the name is a trusted name on there. And it used to be that it was a weird name. It's like it would show up like Ben Dow, but then it would have this weird, unrecognizable domain name email address. But nowadays they can take your exact name, your exact email address, and it looks like Ben Dow sending something. Oh, I got to open this up. Well,
I was wondering why you kept sending me money, Ken. Must be those.
I see it all the time. Everyone uses my name to, hey, go, Ken's, this is Ken. Go use your credit card and go buy a bunch of, the cards there, the cash cards, and send them to so-and-so. It's like, no, that's not
crazy.
Like that. All right, so let's move on here.
Sure.
Step down on the thing. Okay, so primary wellness program. We continue to talk about it. I know there's always a couple new people here and there that are entering for good reasons. So the key is to enter this program before you have a really good reason. That's it right there. That's about wellness, is looking, downfield and making sure that your health is being addressed, and you're making it so that you remain healthy. And this next series that we're going to add into the email of the week is a financial wellness, because obviously what's also important to all of us is financial wellness, not only primary healthcare wellness, but financial. But until you have good health wellness, financial wellness may mean nothing if you're not going to have the chance to enjoy it. So if you're into financial wellness, then I'd say you better be into the primary care wellness too. So here we go. Let's start week one. We're going to talk mostly about 401k, but especially to start with. And we just want to give a little background. I know most of you know and understand to some level the 401k, but there's a lot to it. And I think it's a good review. And maybe there'll be some things that you can learn, or maybe you'll learn how to log into the dashboard for your plan and all that sort of thing through this discussion in the coming weeks. So first of all, let me just explain the background on the 401k. Our retirement program contains a traditional 401k, a Roth 401k, and a safe harbor provision, or multiple provisions. The program is qualified, meaning it meets the standards set forth by the IRS and is for a tax favored status, and a plan under which an employee can elect to contribute a portion of their wages to the plan with certain tax advantages. And the traditional 401k plan allows the employee to take wage contributions that are generally not subject to federal and state income tax withholding when you make the contribution at the time of deferral. The state and federal tax are assessed in the future when you take the contributions in investment income out. Typically that's during retirement. The Roth 401k, which is available for everybody, is a kind of the opposite of that. It allows you to not to defer, so you pay the state and federal taxes when you make the contribution, but the kind of the cool thing there is that your contribution and investment income are not taxed when withdrawn for retirement. So that's actually even a bigger tax advantage. It all depends on, who knows what the future will bring as far as, how much of that income becomes your primary income and everything. But no matter what, you're not going to want to pay taxes on money that you've earned. So this is kind of a nice way to get around that. And then under the safe harbor, the employer, ECI, makes, in our case, a 3% contribution on the employee's wages. So, and that contribution is fully vested, and of course, that's not subject to that tax when that contribution is made. So that's the background on the 401k. We're going to talk about a few other things coming up, like who the players are, who's this Morgan Stanley, who's the Newport, and what ECI's role is, logging into Newport, some of the funds available and that sort of thing. So that's in the coming weeks. And if you have questions, next week we'll post in there, I guess, some contact information, especially now that for next week we do the players, will have contact information, and I'll carry those through on the future ones. So if you want to have a little so-called advisor / educational, informational meeting with Morgan Stanley, we'll have that info. So weather outlook, there's some cold conditions returning for early in the week. So be aware that Sunday night's going to drop well below freezing. It's a low of 15 degrees, and it's going to continue cold in the next few days after that. I understand also that there's some relief because of that cold to hauling heavy loads over the local town roads. So if you need to get materials in to your job site, this is a window that's going to become available in a lot of places. Nothing new on the COVID policies. I will note that there's been a slight uptick of cases, including some at ECI. So not much we can do about that except to try to protect ourselves. Wear a mask if you're uncomfortable, certainly. I think it's just the sign of the things to come. There's always going to be occasional, cases of this. So projects this week, we're covering the conduit plowing. This is kind of a return trip down to the South Coast Rail Project down in southeastern Mass. ECI was contacted by Daigle Electric Company Corporation out of Wilmington, Mass, to install 3 conduits along the existing rail by plowing methods. Daigle is the electrical subcontractor to Skanska DWA, a joint venture, and the project owner is the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. I worked as part of the communication signal system for the new commuter rail, which is being installed along an existing freight line. And in the fall of 2021, last fall, ECI completed 11,300 feet in under 4 days, which was pretty impressive. And what is that we now have a new milestone, of course, to meet to call it impressive, because we returned this past week and completed an additional 19,073 feet in just under 3 days. So we're picking up momentum, and we'll return in July to install an additional 22,887. Total installation complete will be 53,000, over 53,000 feet of 3 1/4 interducts. And ECI scope work has recently expanded, also install a 96 count fiber optic cable and traceable mule tape within the interducts. Work will start in next week or the week after, I guess, to install the fiber and mule tape into in place conduits and be completed when we return in July. And when complete, we'll have installed over 106,520 feet of fiber and 159, almost 160,000 feet of mule tape. That's a lot of distance there. So this is a graphics we've had presented before on location. And there's a North Station and South Station in Boston are the main kind of terminal stops for the commuter lines and also the surface and subway lines. North Station covers the north, and South Station, of course, all goes south. And from South Station, this new line is quite a ways south on this dashed area, down around Middleborough, and heads over to Taunton, Fall River, and New Bedford. I've gone through that area a few different times. It's not an area you'd normally go to and think of as Massachusetts. You usually stop at Cape Cod or something, or Boston, or around the 128-95 circle, but this is fair distance below that. Pretty much far down is Rhode Island. That's Rhode Island on the left there. So here we are, pulling the interduct in, plowing it in with the Volvo excavator with a plow attachment. And there's 3 conduits. You can see there's a truck dispensing the conduit on high rails ahead of us, a little boom truck. It's like a pretty good setup. A picture later. That's a truck owned by I assume Daigle. And I'm creeping here so I don't jump around. And you can obviously see the conduit. They're putting in a marking ribbon. The excavator swung to offset the plow off rail. We're getting at least 3 feet embedment, I believe. I'm not sure exactly what the requirements are. Tom's out there, he would know, or one of the other guys. This is an example of where you encounter something like any kind of obstruction, a known obstruction anyway. You have to come up and over the top of them. In this case, the switch timbers and the switch. So that would go back, and the Daigle or one of their other subs or somebody would come back and excavate down to the point where they're at the full depth, and then excavate around and mine underneath the ties, and probably obviously make a cut here and resplice the interduct underneath the switch timbers. And let's see here. Also, the other part of the process is typically getting started, and I'm not sure, but this looks like what they're doing is tying off the start, because you've got a fair amount of drag going through the chute with 3 conduits, or even just 1 conduit, but the more conduits, the harder it is. So what we would do is anchor the end of the conduits to the rail, to some ties. And then that way it's held back, and then we'd start advancing the plow and dropping the plow blade into the ground. So this is just as you start the operation. start a segment of run, and then you enter the plow into the ground, and this holds back that conduit. Get to the next one here. This shows more of a close-up of the plow, and they're actually coming above ground. It looks like some kind of splicing box there, and they'll obviously dig back that after, and then go back and push the conduits in, get enough slack back away from the box, get some slack, and push them in to at least the active conduits would go through the splice box. And you can see the plow attachment and how long the blade is there. Trying to go a little faster, but I can't move this without having it jump all over the place again. So this is one of the local towns. Always you get kind of an uglier view of a town when you ride along the tracks, because it's always less maintained, and the backside of factories and you know, just a lot of barriers to keep noise and everything else away from the railroads to the public side. Looks like getting into an industrial area. Here's a picture of the boom truck that Daigle had or rented or something, with the 3 reels of conduit. Typically, I would assume those are like 8,000 foot reels or something on that order of magnitude. So they'd have to change it out each time. So when you talk about how many feet in a day or how many feet throughout a duration, we're also, you know, have to sometimes run out. Obviously, they want to use up most of the interduct on a reel. So once you run out, you're done until they get set up again, which obviously in this case would mean getting off the track, going to their you know, restocking yard, restock, get back on the rail. So you like to time that to when the end of the day happens, so they can be doing it during times that wouldn't normally be productive anyway. Oops, let me see. I'm gonna have to try to drag this. For some reason, I'm not able to advance my screen. There we go. Yep, there we go. Jumping around there. There's just another view of the plowing. And I think it's one of the final pictures here. Looks like an operation, maybe a foundation drilling operation going on ahead of us. And you can see the back end view from the reel trailer. And there's my video. I'm going to try to run this, see if we are successful here. I say I won't put the volume on, but maybe I'll turn the volume off so I can narrate here a little bit. So you get a sense of how fast this is going. And this poor guy looks like he has a limp or something, and Ryan's just running harder to keep him moving, make him earn his pay. So, so it gives you a sense of it. Let's see, I get back to the email here, and we'll go to the archives. This is part of the problem with jumping around. Well, maybe I have to go back to Teams.
Yep.
Teams. Yep.
We stayed on your email. We didn't see the video. It was on a different screen. Yeah, your video came to a different screen.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the problems. But if you click that, it's a 12-second video. It goes pretty fast. I mean, the plow operation is probably better than normal walking speed, a brisk walking speed in a lot of cases. So let's see, I'll get back. Can you see my screen still, or?
Yeah, we're on the
Okay, we're getting down to the archive
photos. Yep, exactly.
Okay, good. So this is the Maine Power Reliability Program, the MPRP up in Maine. This is near Lewiston, and we're plowing ground wire at overhead rail crossings. Overhead, I misstated that, I guess, overhead power crossings at railroads. So what it was, there was high voltage going over the tracks. And whenever you have high voltage, there's a potential for inductive current in anything that metal around that, especially traveling alongside or perpendicular to the high voltage lines. And the idea is that the cable being installed, the ground wire, would help shunt that. So that's what I got. Matt, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for 47, 48 of us that joined. If you were in a group setting, I've already got a couple messages. Thanks, Brad and Toby, for sending in your list. So if you did watching in a team setting, please send over the participants. With that said, let's have a good, safe day today, and let health and safety know if you have any questions on any ladder safety.
Good. Okay, take care. Be safe out there.
Basket.